isolates himself.
Hi! Welcome to community. We're winging
Welcome
it.
to community.
Again.
Winging it's the best way to go.
Winging it is basically the only way.
It just works. It just works. That's why.
Hi. We're glad you're here. Right?
That's true, yes.
We're very glad you're here. Sarah, Jacob.
We're
Episode 2!
2, yes. Yes. We haven't changed anything so far.
Which is probably a good thing. So we had actually several people, well, our pastor's wife commented on our Facebook page and said that she is super excited to hear what Jesus is going to do through this podcast, and we're super excited.
Oh, yeah.
I am. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about isolation and like that thing that happens when we maybe fall off the wagon, because I had a couple stumbling blocks this week, and
yeah, I was gonna say kind of like the stumbling stone in the way.
I had a thing come up this week and went back to some old habits that I knew would make me feel better, quote unquote.
Oh yeah, right.
And
well, it just fulfills selfish desire, and that's a lot of
right,
like what it is.
Well, and we were just talking about Bible verses for like this episode for whatever we would want it to be, and Proverbs 18:1 was the first one, and it says, "One who has isolated himself seeks his own desires; he rejects all sound judgment."
Yeah, the Amplified, I think it says it really well, because it says, "He who willfully separates himself from God and man seeks his own desires." So it's like it's a choice.
Yeah,
it's not like I was pressured to be,
right.
to like be off on my own. It's like it's a choice, and it's like you come to that crossroad where you have to choose: do I separate myself or do I reach out for help?
Right. So one thing that I did this week was in the stumbling situation was I have a friend who I talked to this person because they have the same struggle that I did. And I just told them, I was like, I'm having this feeling that like I need to pull myself out of all of the things to like stop helping in childcare because I'm not
quote unquote perfect.
I'm not good, right? Like I'm obviously not good, but Dan Mohler says it, and I told you this earlier, Dan Mohler says it best of like, that thing's not in my heart. Jesus is in my heart. But like it's memory stuff. It's a pathway that I walked for so long that helped me feel fulfilled. That it's hard. It's hard in a rough season to not want to like travel that all over again,
or like I said, like go back or try to keep it all covered up like you're doing great even when you're not doing great.
Oh, for sure. And the isolation tactic is something that keeps me from like
feeling bad about what you're doing. That's I feel like where a lot of isolation comes from, is to keep you from feeling bad about the actions and things that you do.
Right. Well, and
because if nobody knows, how do you feel bad?
Right? How who can make me feel bad if I can keep it a secret? And I super struggle. And this week was one of those weeks where like I super struggled with the thought that like I'm doing this by myself anyway. Why do I need anybody else's help? And today at church, I walked in and I walked up to Rachel Pearson and I was talking to her, and just everything in me was like, this is why, because community, like these people love me in a place where like I can say, hey, I had a really rough week and I stumbled and I need that prayer. I need that.
Yeah. And I feel like too, it's a place to where it's like the community helps you. Like they love you to a point to where it's like they don't perpetuate it, but they tell you how to get through it. Like not leave you stuck where you're at, which is what most people
drowning.
do. Or they just feel sorry for you and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry that you're going through this. We'll be praying." It's like community is where you get advice.
Right.
Like they try to help
Well,
you
find a mentor.
continue to move on and continue to push forward instead of allowing you to retreat back and, isolate and things like that.
Right. So in studying, like looking at verses about isolation and stuff, Ecclesiastes came up. And if you have read Ecclesiastes and you don't like it, I'm going to play the advocate here. I love Ecclesiastes. Like, I absolutely love it. I think it is. I think it's such a good book, and it's a good book because oh my gosh.
Don't die. You'll be fine.
Oh my gosh. I might. It's one of those books that, like, if you're just doing an overview of it, everything is futile and nothing matters, right? Like,
yeah.
Which is basically, yes. But it's more of a study of, like, oh, how do I want to say this? Bible Project has a great video about it. You should go watch it. But it's more about, like, the things that we think that we do here on earth that are so important. It's talking about how those things in the long term, like in the grand scheme of things, are minute.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I had a life, like, rereading it and going slow and going at it of, like, okay, what is he talking about? Why does he feel this way? Why did Solomon feel this way, right? Why did the teacher feel this way? Because I think in Ecclesiastes he refers to himself as a teacher. But Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And I think I know, like, me and Jesus, I talk to him as much as I possibly can, like, throughout the day and all of that. But I know that when I have someone like you or my friend that I was just talking about that I can go to and be like, hey, this thing happened, to have someone stand up with me and be like, yeah, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let you give up ground you won. Right.
Yeah.
And I know that I've been that, like, in the past for people who are like, hey, I'm done. Like, to the point where I'm done. Yeah. And just be like, hey, no, I refuse to be the person who gives up ground for you. Like, I will stand with you and I will take my sword and I'll swing it and fight. And I think the draw of isolation is you can stay in yourself wallowing, your pity.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have someone there to, like,
so like, kind of like you said earlier, like Dan Mohler, he talks about in one of his, I don't even remember which one, I've watched so many, but he talks about like it's like a stone, it's like a stumbling stone, but it's not the fact of, like, it being there and, like, you tripping, it's the fact that once you trip, you stay down, you don't get back up. So like it comes against you, you go down, but then you stay there, like, you stay down, you don't continue to move on, you get stuck there. So, like, kind of like you said, like, wallowing in the self-pity, it's like you feel bad, you don't want to, you're like, oh, I'm a terrible person and all of this and that. And so it's like, that's where community can come in and actually help.
Right. Right. I would hope that this podcast would start those types of conversations, to where when people are struggling, or if you feel like isolating or feel like you don't matter, or your presence doesn't matter somewhere or whatever, I'm here to tell you that, like, you are an invaluable part of the body. Like,
there's always hope. And I feel like that's not what a lot of people say. No. No matter where you're at, there is literally always hope. Yep.
There's always hope. And just know that Jacob and I both, like, I have seen it growing up, the isolation of, like, changing churches, right? And, like, the people you had at the church you were at, and then going to a new church, like, the isolation that you feel because we act a lot like church groups are gangs, and we can't,
right.
can't
You
talk
can't
to them
mingle.
anymore. Like, you can't mingle with them anymore. When in reality, like, and I think Jacob can agree
We're
with this,
all
we
just
have
people,
family at
yeah.
several different churches in our local, in the Joplin area. And we're all part of the same body.
Yeah, it's like we're all people just trying to figure it out.
Right.
And I feel like that's where we miss it sometimes. We're just not.
We're isolating from each other.
Yeah,
church groups wise.
Exactly, because we're like, we don't go to that church, so we can't be friends, kind of thing. And it's like, it's definitely not how it works.
Well, and I think the other thing is that there are denominational differences, and I totally get that, and I can see churches not seeing eye to eye on things.
Certain topics. Definitely
but
different things.
It's in the New Testament where they talk about, like, it doesn't matter if you're a follower of Paul or you're a follower of Peter, like, we're chasing the same thing, right? Like, none of that matters in the long run. Like, it's all about Jesus, and it's all about the body, and it's
all about us being the church instead of the church being a place.
Disciples.
Well, the church being a place that we go to, and we're separated because of buildings and denominations. It should be us being the church.
Yeah.
And, reaching out to
Making
like
disciples.
our local communities and like, creating communities where people can, come get help and, talk about things that, like, they may not have an answer to. So like maybe try to find somebody that does.
Right.
Or, find somebody that can give you some sort of guidance, like godly guidance.
Godly guidance.
Yeah, like
yes.
not just random human guidance that leads you all down crazy path.
For sure. I would hope that if you're listening to this and you don't have a church home and you're in the local Joplin area, that you would try, or that you would come to Impact. That's where we both attend, is Impact Life Church at 23rd and Annie Baxter. But get plugged into a body, and when those things come up,
but a body that teaches the word, like I said.
We will die on that.
you don't want to get into one that's just kind of stuck in
Willy-nilly.
politics and other things of that nature, because that can get weird
Very
in all
quickly.
of itself.
Right.
You just want one that will actually
teach the word.
Yeah, teach you the word. So that way you're
Get
not
into
getting
a
more
Bible
confused.
Get into a Bible believing body.
Yes.
Get plugged into a Bible believing body, and know that, like, if I'm struggling with isolation, like, it's an all over issue. It's not just me. It's not just you. It's not just Jacob. It's
right.
Everyone goes through it, and it's okay to feel that way, but don't dwell there.
Yeah, you just, like I said, you don't want to get stuck in that area, because then it just becomes harder to get out. Because,
for sure.
Because then you feel like the shame builds on itself, because a lot of that stuff births other things. So, like, it starts off with, like, guilt, and then it turns into shame, and then you feel bad, and then you start, like, skipping church, and then you start doing other stuff because you're like, oh, well, I'm not doing the right thing.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. And it becomes more of like a pedestal to try to climb up onto, and there's no pedestal. It's like I said, you're not holding God up to a higher standard.
Right.
So it's like, you shouldn't be able to let him down, I feel like.
Right.
So.
That's a good point. Missy sings a song about that.
Yeah. I think it's in a Maverick City Music song, actually. I don't remember the name of it, but I do not remember it right now.
Oh.
I don't know the name. I'm going to look it up now.
It's...
I'll just type in Maverick City Music. I don't know why I'm doing that.
You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown. It's that one. Gyra.
Gyra. Is this one? You sure?
Yes.
Are you sure it's this song?
Yes. Yes.
I'm almost positive you're right. I thought this was it, but I didn't want to be wrong. Yeah, it's this one.
Wasn't holding you up.
So there's nothing I could do to let you down. But yeah, that right there, it's like, that's true though.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, you gotta, there you go.
There it
I
goes.
gotta say, turn
Sorry.
the alarm off.
We're we're at 15:19.
We might just keep going until we end whenever we end. It's like
Whatever you want to talk about. We're winging it.
Yeah, I know. That's all I was gonna say.
We do have like 1 whole minute of me coughing.
That's okay. That's okay. things happen. It's like,
well,
it's not gonna be perfect.
So, but
it's gonna get there.
It's gonna.
I mean, maybe not perfect, but it'll get somewhere.
It will get somewhere for sure. But just like that, like I wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I could do to let you down. I think that like resting in that area. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
because like you said, like even like it says I can never be more loved than I am right now.
Right.
It's like he never stops loving you, and I feel like we get to that point too. Like especially with the isolation thing,
well,
we get to a point. Well, yeah, we get to a point where it's like, oh, how could he love me? And it's like, but he never stopped, and I feel like that's where we kind of get a little bit askewed too, because it's like the main thing is like an attack on the word, so it's like, although people don't realize it, it's like Satan tempted Jesus with the word in the wilderness. He was like, tell these stones to become bread. It's like, because, of what the word says. And then Jesus then replies with, but it was written.
Yeah, it is
every time.
Every
like
time.
Not to test God and like and like he's like, well, throw yourself off because he says you won't break a bone. So he's like using the word out of context and like just bits and pieces of it to try to destroy the truth.
For sure.
So it's like
here it is. In Matthew 4.
Hey, you found it. That's amazing.
I did find it.
You found that a lot faster than I would have.
Sorry.
Okay. Just keep
it. So Matthew 4 is where it talks about Satan tempting Jesus, and he says in verse 3, now when the tempter came to him, he said, if you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So for us, whenever that comes up, like, that's why I said I'll pick up my sword.
Yeah, because you should know, like, the truth that you should not waver on, I feel like. And I feel like that's where sometimes we do, kind of like said, like, we waver on the fact that he loves us, even though it constantly states that he loves us no matter what. He loved us even though we were sinners. It's like, but that's like something that we tend to waver on. It's something that comes up, and then when we start to question it, we're like, oh, well, does he really love us? Or, oh, this, because it comes on, I would say, like I said, as an attacking against the truth. And like I said, just trying to misalign it. Like, because it's not like he's trying to fully be like, oh, like, don't follow Jesus. It's more like, oh, put him to the side for now.
Yeah.
So, because he's there, but let's just put him off to the side and do this thing. And so then it becomes more of a, oh, well, I'm not, letting go of God because he's still there. It's just, so then it becomes all tricky because, like I said, it's just deceit. And you don't know when you're being deceived unless somebody points it out to you.
Right.
Because a lot of the times, this whole point of deceit is to not know. So if you don't know, how can you fix it? Or how can you come about it without having, like we were talking earlier, like community or somebody to be like, hey, maybe that's not right. Or, hey, that isn't right, depending on, what you're going through.
Right. Well, and in Hebrews, let's see here. Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. And if you want to pull out the Amplified, go ahead.
Yeah, well, but no, what I was going to say, like, the attack on the word goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, because, like, you could say as, like, when he told them not to eat of the tree, that was his spoken word to them. Yep. Well, then because he told them, if you eat of this tree, you will surely die. But then he tells them, if you eat of the tree, you won't die.
The accuser comes,
So
yeah.
he literally attacks the word that they had and the truth that they knew,
Right.
and then turn around. And so it's literally an attack on the word from the beginning.
Yeah.
So once that starts to come up and you kind of realize that, it's like it helps too to understand that when it's an attack on the word, you kind of know, you're like, okay, no, this is what I know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of stand firm on those things. And I feel like that's where like faith and different things come in, because it's like, you know, because sometimes it's not clear cut. It's like, you know, like I said, it's like just pushing them off to the side, or, you know, it's like something very minute, kind of like what he like tried to do with Jesus, where he was like quoting the word. So,
but twisting it.
Yeah. But not quoting all of it. So it was just, you know, it was enough to try to, you know, slip him up. It's like, but.
Well, and I think that attack on the truth that you know, like, so for me, for example, like the truth that nothing I do changes how he loves me, right? So like that attack that I need to do more Bible study, or I need to do more in prayer, or I need to do more in discipleship, or
have more faith. Have more faith is the worst thing I feel like has ever been brought up. Like that's the one thing that I feel like
Jesus said
wish
faith of a mustard seed.
Yeah, I just wish. It's like people say that because they mean well, but it's so bad. I feel like just because it's like,
well, it's damaging.
Well, it's not just damaging. It's we're putting the blame on the person because of their faith. So then how does that make them feel? So like if I didn't have enough faith and something didn't happen, I would feel really bad. I'd be like, whoa, maybe I need more faith, but I don't know how to get more faith. It's like, because it's not about that either, because like when Jesus goes to the man at the well, that dude had no idea who Jesus was. When they ask him later on, after Jesus heals him, and he walks off because he basically says, you know, nobody's able to put me in the water, and then he literally heals this man. He does not even know who Jesus is. Like he has no idea. How can you have faith?
Right.
How do you have faith when you don't know anything? Like they're like who healed you? I don't know, some dude. Like that requires zero faith. So I feel like that part is just so bad when we said it's,
well, you
it's
didn't
good.
Get your healing because you didn't have enough faith.
Well, not even just healing. It's just like anything in general. It's like, oh, you need to have more faith, or you need to pray harder. It's not about praying harder, and it's not about having more faith. It's about kind of knowing how to pray. I feel like too, is a kicker, because it's like, you know, we constantly pray for stuff, almost like treating him like a genie too. And it's one of those things where it's like you want to try to, you know, understand how to pray and ask the right questions so that way you get some sort of answers, instead of just constantly being confused.
Well, for me, the have more faith conversation pushes us back to isolation.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because, like, they tell you something doesn't happen that you've been seeking Jesus for. And all of a sudden it puts you in this place where, like, well, if I show my face back there, they're all going to know that that this didn't happen, like that the prayer didn't work, or that that the thing that we'd been fasting for didn't come to pass, you know. And I think that in and of itself can cause people to be like, well, what's the point in even going back? They're all gonna know that, like, I obviously didn't hear from Jesus, when in reality you probably did.
Well, and the other kicker there is to like said, I had it, but now I don't remember exactly. It's I completely lost it. I had it, but now I don't remember. My mind is going 100 miles an hour, so I lost it.
You're good. Winging it. It's just like...
Well, like I said, like with the more faith thing and stuff like that, it like I said, it's like I said, it's probably from a good intention.
Well-meaning place.
Yeah, but it's the fact that they believe that they have to have an answer.
Right.
And so they come up with a random answer like, "Oh, you need to have more faith," when in all reality they could be like, "I just don't know." It's like,
Right.
I don't know why it didn't happen, or, "Oh, I have, I'll pray about it and see,
Right.
try to give you an answer. I'll look for an answer," instead of just blurting something out. Because I feel like a lot of times we feel like we have to have answers to
Right.
questions,
Right.
no matter what. And I feel like that's another bad place to be in,
Right.
is to constantly feel like we need to give somebody an answer, when in reality it's okay to just be like, "Well, I'll look into it," or, "I don't know right now," or,
Right.
just being more honest than just trying to throw out something.
Right. Well, in that honesty, remembering that, like, you can, where was I going with that? In that place of, like, I don't have an answer for you, of how do I want to word this? There have been plenty of times where people have been like, "Why didn't this thing happen the way I wanted it to happen?" Right?
Yeah,
I have several friends who, like, have gotten frustrated with situations in their life where they're like, "I've prayed about this thing and he's not moving on my behalf. He's just not." And I don't know, like, why is he not swooping in and changing the situation? Because he could. I don't have an answer, right?
No, yeah.
And, like, learning to be like, "Hey, I don't have all the answers," can be an answer.
Yeah, right.
Of,
Well,
like,
and then too, I think another thing that it was Todd White. It was that one that I sent you, the Lifestyle Christianity, where they had the lady speak, and she mentioned not going after the healing, just seeking His face. And I feel like a lot of the times, what we do is we try to pray for things and, like, pray things away, instead of just seeking His face.
Oh, yeah.
And then
sure.
it coming through that, and us being okay. Because if you look at a lot of, like people where, like, the coat of many colors and things like that, where he's thrown in the pit, he's sold into slavery. It's like he didn't stop serving God in those, and he just wasn't, like, blaming God for everything.
Right.
It's like he was still doing what he was supposed to be doing, and so he was still getting high honors and everything else.
But that pushback was a setup for him.
Yeah. But it's like there's two choices in situations like that you can make. You can either go the negative route, or you can try and
seek Jesus in that.
Just continue to seek. And it's like you can either blame God for it, or you can just continue to, like, try to praise and just be like, "Okay, I know it's not going well now,
right.
but I know you're with me." It's like, it's still continuing to serve. It's like, I feel like that too is another thing, because, like, what is it? Hold on, let me look it up. I think it's Philippians 4:13. Let me look it up to make sure I don't quote this wrong.
Small interlude.
Yeah, I can do all things which He has called me to do through Him who strengthens and empowers me to fulfill His purpose. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I am ready for anything and equal to everything, or equal to anything, through Him who infuses me with inner strength and confidence and peace. In that instance, where he's talking in here, it's not necessarily about the whole "I can do all things through Christ."
Right.
It's about being okay in all situations, because he talks about, he's like, "I learned how to live with a lot, and I've learned how to live with a little."
Right.
And then it states, "I can do all things." So it's like, I can be okay in all situations.
Right.
it's just I feel like part of it's just a mindset.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. So actually, on the hike that Davey and I did this week with Dad on Monday, we were talking about like taking those scriptures and twisting them out of the context that they're written in to like put them, runners wear them on their
it's
like
it's
headbands or paint them on their arms or whatever.
It's in a beneficial sense.
In a beneficial sense, instead of like in this moment, like in this super rough season that we're in, like he is the strength that's going to get me through it, right? Like instead of, well, I want to lift 4,000 pounds and I can do all things.
I can do all things because Christ is with me. I can lift 4,000 pounds. It's like,
which if you do that, congratulations. I'm super proud of you.
It's like, that's awesome, but maybe that's not how it works.
Right? Just a little bit. I think that stuff like that, where we see the twisting of the scripture like that, can cause people who are in that season where they're wanting to isolate, can cause them to want to run further, because we twist that to...
Well, because they try to use it to benefit them, and when it doesn't, then you shut down. It's like, you're like, oh, well, it says that, but...
I don't feel that.
Yeah, it's like... And a lot of the times, too, people do things based off of feelings, so it's like... It's like, if you try not to do a lot of things based off of feeling, it's a lot easier, because, like, you're not... And I mean, like, acting out. So, like something comes against you and you get angry, you act out in anger.
Yeah.
Or, like, like, you're like, oh, well, I'm super excited for this. So I jump on it, like, like, although, like, let's say it's like buying a new car. It's like, you shouldn't buy a new car, but you're, like, so excited. You just, because of feelings. It's, like, all about feelings, and you're doing things based off of feelings, which it's not necessarily a bad thing at times, but it's, like, it's not always a good thing either.
Right, for sure.
Because it's a lot like, it's kind of like how they say, I can't remember, but it's like sin against you producing sin in you. Is where what I was getting at with that is, like, it's like somebody like said coming at you angry, so you just respond in anger.
Right.
So
exactly.
But that's, like I said, that's where things of like we were talking, like, community and stuff can come in and actually help you and be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't respond those ways, or, hey, maybe we should, do this, or maybe this would be, not necessarily like telling you how to live, but just giving you advice on certain things,
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to be told what to do.
Right.
Because it's not a list of rules of do's and don'ts.
Exactly. Well, and so the thing that's helped me a lot is to have mentors. So I have women that are older than me. One that she is a Paul for me, Judy Oglesby, she's an amazing human being. But, like, when I struggle with stuff, I am able to, like, instead of pulling away and hiding, I can go to her and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this thing. Can you... And she does not pull punches. Like, I can tell, like, I can tell you there was one instance for certain where I was having a pity party. I was feeling bad for me. And she came up to me and I just started crying to her. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I have prayed. I don't understand. And she just looked at me and I could see it on her face that she was, like, asking the Holy Spirit, please don't let me, like, please don't make me do this.
I don't want to
ruin this. But she hugged me and she looked at me and she's like, you know better. And it was one of those moments, like, at the time, a very human part of me was like, I don't ever want to talk to her again.
Yeah, it's like...
I don't ever want to talk to her again.
It's like getting hit with a brick.
But then, like, 5 minutes pass, and
then you're like, yeah,
and it's right. Like, wait, she's right. Like, I know what the Holy Spirit said.
Right.
I know what Jesus has said about it. Like, I'm good. So... I definitely, if you're feeling an isolation season, like if you're feeling like isolating, pulling away, not reaching out to anyone, my suggestion is to get you mentors. And I'm not talking about someone your age, or I'm talking Christian, like following Jesus.
Yeah, people that are following and
maybe a little further on their walk.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of have more knowledge, or that have been in it longer.
Or more mature.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. To where it's like they can give you insight and they can help you understand.
And someone who's willing to tell you the truth even when it might not feel good. Because the best things that's ever happened to me is conversations like I said with Judy, where she's been like, hey,
yeah,
I'm going to deliver this as gently as I can, but it's going to hurt no matter what way I do it.
Well, like Dan and them talk, he's like, yeah, I make it all funny because he's like, when I stick you with the knife, it's not so bad. He's like, because it's like, when you're pruning a tree and you're chopping limbs off that don't need to be there, it's like, it's not going to be fun. It's like, you may like that part, and it may be like, well, it needs to go. And it's like, but I don't want to let it go. But it's like, you still got to hack it off. So it's like, it's not going to be comfortable, but you'll feel a lot better afterward.
Well, and I can tell you that after having that conversation with her, I had a heart change where I am now different.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't willing to pull those punches. And it was a couple weeks later, I went to her and I was like, hey, thank you so much for like being brave enough. Because everybody else at the time around me was like, oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry. And she was the only one who was like, you know who you are. Stand up.
Yeah, like, get over yourself.
Stand up. Pick up your sword. And she wasn't...
But no,
the thing she said wasn't something that innately, like, it wasn't mean, it wasn't hurtful. But what got said was something that needed to be said in order to clean out the area that needed cleaned out, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, like, irrigating a wound.
No, yeah.
Getting all the gross, gunky, nasty out so that the healing can take place. And I'm better for it. And I have several women in my life who do that. And I would definitely suggest, whatever gender you are, that you find someone of the same gender to speak with, older than you. So, like, I would, like, Jacob has talked to David Pearson, or to, who else have you talked to? Josh Morgan.
And then, Todd. But yeah, like I said, it's just one of those things where it's like, if you don't have people, it's just hard. Yeah. I would say it's just very hard. It's very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
It's not necessarily impossible, but it's not as
But I would definitely start praying
easy.
For that.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's definitely not as easy.
No.
Because it's just one of those
things. Because they have to be, you're trusting them with deep parts of you.
Oh, well,
it's someone that you're going to, like, it's definitely a prayerful thing. Because you don't want to just tell everyone all of the things about you. I mean,
unless you're that kind of person, unless you're just an extrovert.
I'm an extrovert, and I even know that there's boundaries, sir.
Say it. Some people don't, though.
On the next episode of Community, we're going to talk about boundaries. I
don't know that one.
You do too know that one.
I said I don't know about that one. It's like, we'll probably get to the next episode and forget.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But that's fine.
We're at 38 minutes.
That's okay. We'll just go to 45 minutes and call it good.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, if they sat through it that long.
If you sat through it this long, we are so glad you're here. We're sorry it rambles. That's just how our conversations go. Because that's what this is going to be. It's conversations.
Yeah.
If you want to email us, insidethefirepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, because we decided to not change it, because that's just a
even though that's not the name of our podcast. But that's okay. It's okay.
We changed the name because this is better. This is the direction we felt like we needed to go in. So
I think for me, us changing to Community. So at first, when you first brought it up, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was like, seriously, we're gonna change it. And then the more that I like sat there and I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, what are you saying? Like, what are you actually saying? Like, what do you want to say about it? The more right it felt, right? Like,
yeah, well, that's kind of like I said, it dawned on me at church, like I said, when they started talking about Community, when they had Clint. My brain does not want to work. Clint, and then Jacob up there talking, and I was like, it dawned on me because it's like I had known, I had thought that myself, like, oh yeah, you need more community and things like that. but I was just kind of like, you know, I just kind of blew it off. And then it's like, when they started talking, then it's like, I started really feeling it. And then it's like the next day, it's like I thought about it, and it's like, I the other name was good, but it's like I said, I feel like I just picked it because it was kind of catchy. It's like not necessarily because it was
what's on his heart.
Yeah. It was just kind of something that came up, and I was like, well, that sounds cool, you know.
Well,
like,
and
really
I
catchy.
very much like, and you and I had talked about this in changing the name, that like community, we feel like that's what's on God's heart.
Yeah, I feel like that's the direction, because kind of like we talked to, where we mentioned, like, you know, not being the bride, to where they were like, you know, they're all waiting with the oil.
Right.
It's like, and them not having enough oil, it's like, I feel like part of that too winds up being partially on the community, because it's like if we're not helping people stay prepared, or helping people get prepared, it's like, what are we doing? It's like, are we just waiting? And although, like, it even talks like they would ask for oil, and then they knew that if they gave them some, they would run out. So it makes sense why they wouldn't in that aspect. But it's like, why would we let it get to that point? Why would we not try to help them and be like, hey, you need enough oil.
Right. You need
to make sure you're with us, so you're not these people back here without enough oil.
Right.
To make it. So it's like, I feel like too, like, that's kind of like said, that's part of like the community thing, to like try to help us and try to like
so
help us all be prepared.
So that when the time comes, we are all ready.
Yeah, so that way we are like an army, and we're not just random individuals trying to deal with everything.
That's good, Jacob. That's really
like
good.
Said.
Holy Spirit, what do you want to say? In that, being prepared, right? Like, I think with being prepared comes like finding your church body. I said finding your tribe the last time. Finding your Bible believing church who's going to step alongside of you, and when you stumble, they're not going to condemn you. They're going to step next to you and be like, "Hey."
They're going to tell you that
they're going to tell
it wasn't
the truth.
Right. And then they're going to give you
the steps to
get away, or to, like, you know, stay in the word, and not to fall away from the word, and you know, get outside of everything, and basically fall apart, where, like I said, stay stuck. So once you trip, they'll be like, okay, yeah, we, you know, that wasn't okay, but let's do this. Let's move on. Let's, you know, continue on. Let's stop staying stuck
It's okay to trip, but like, don't stay there.
Yeah, don't stay down. It's like, don't let it hold you down, because then you just get put back to the beginning. You
so go like back me, to the beginning. I trip, and I just wanna lay there and beat myself up for tripping.
Exactly.
Right.
Because I've been in that boat a lot.
Want to lay there and like, oh, Jesus could never love me because I'm so bad. And it's like, no, wait. It's not that I'm innately bad. That's not it. It's that there's a part of my heart that was bent towards sin.
Yeah.
And we're working toward correcting that.
Well, and like Dan says too, like when things like that come against you, it's like you try to use it as a springboard back. So when it comes up, instead of like holding on to that thought and like processing it, because I feel like a lot of the times this is what happens. Like, it comes in, we process it, and then we try to we either act upon it, or we're like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
You know, we're like, why is this happening to me? But it's like, in that aspect, if you springboard, you'd be like, well, I was set free from this. Like, I'm free. Like, this doesn't control me. Like, like this isn't on. Yeah, like, this isn't me anymore. No. Like, this was the old me.
Right.
And like springboarding it back to him, because then it's like, those things will slowly stop, because it's like, it's pushing you closer to Christ, instead of you getting hit and then, like I said, realizing, you know, you tripped over the stone and falling down and just staying down. It's like, instead, you basically just kind of just jump over it and keep going. Like, you're like, oh, hey, you know, like, thank you for setting me free from this
Right.
a long time ago. Like,
Right.
thank you for, not not
I'm a
allowing
new
this.
creation.
Yeah,
Right.
like not,
Reminding
like,
yourself
yeah,
of those truths.
yeah, exactly. In the end, because like I said, it's one of those things where, like I said, if you don't springboard back, you then tend to trip, or like I said, it's like you don't see it coming, but eventually you start to see it coming. Like you can
Right.
tell, like you're like, oh wait, this just came against me. Like you could start to, after so long, you eventually start to see the stone instead of just tripping over the same stone over and over again.
Right.
You start to catch on, and like you realize, okay, well, these are the tactics he's using to trip me up.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, obviously, it'll change, because if you're springboarding back and you're drawing closer, he's like, well, now I got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, you won't be going back so much, because it's all about him trying to deceive you.
Yep.
Because like I said, it's like he's waiting at the door like a
crouching lion.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like
waiting for whoever he can devour.
Yep. He's just, like I said.
That's the
like,
thing.
And if you're waiting at the door to open it.
Well, and if when you trip, you're willing to lay there.
Well, like I said, not just that, it's one of those things too where it's like the door, it's like the door would be like something coming up, like kind of like you said, where it's like you saw that thing on Facebook. It's like you can either leave the door closed
and
or you can open it.
Right.
And it's like, if you open it, then boom, it's there. It's like he's right there. The boom, just come in.
Yep.
But if you're like, oh hey, I've been set
see
free
that door.
from this. Yeah, it's like I thought this isn't me. It's like I've been set free from this, and you turn and walk on. It's
right.
like then you're better off for it in the end.
It's true.
But so do we want to call it?
Well, we're at 47 minutes.
That's fine. Who knows if anybody's gonna make it this long? But if they do,
congratulations!
You're a hero.
Thank you for joining us for Community tonight. We're super glad you're here. Episode 2 is recorded and done.
Yeah.
We'll see you later.
Deuces.